Welcome to Quarantine Crafts, where we practice thinking like an artist. We'll be using imagination, creativity, and humor to think up new ways to make art using what we already have, whether that's things we find at home or things we find in nature. Let's begin. Today we'll be making mandalas, which are circular designs that incorporate repetition and radial symmetry. In other words, a pattern that goes in a circle like the spokes of a wheel. We see the mandala pattern in lots of places in nature, and it's also an ancient art form that can be found in many cultures across the world, including the Mayan calendar from Central America, the Gothic rose windows of European cathedrals, and the delicately chalked doorways of southern India. The first mandala we'll make today will start out as a pencil drawing, so you'll need a piece of paper, a pencil, you'll probably want an eraser, and as you'll see in a minute, you'll need something round that you can trace around. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to need a circle to start out with, and usually the easiest way to do that is to trace around something that you've already got at home. And then you're going to need to find the middle of that circle. And no need to measure here, your best guess is good enough. Next up, we're going to divide this circle into segments, and these are where your pattern is going to repeat. I'm going to be using 4 segments in the demo here, but please feel free to change that number up and make your design what you want it to be. Remember, this is your artwork and you're the one who gets to make those decisions. With the segments laid out, we're ready to begin drawing. Remember that you'll be drawing the same thing in each segment since we're making a repeating design that goes around the circle. I decided to get started with some nice big hearts that fit really nicely into these kind of wedge-shaped spaces. It's fine to use a pattern or a stencil at this point, and some artists would do so because they want to get those really precise shapes that are exactly the same every time. But in this video, you'll see me drawing things by hand and deliberately leaving them imperfect because I really like the warmth and the softness that comes with that handmade feeling. I didn't really have a plan for what I was going to do after I finished those hearts, but I was thinking about springtime and the flowers outside, and I decided that maybe I could squeeze some skinny little flowers up in between them. You may have noticed that many of the sample mandalas we saw at the beginning of this video included a lot of detail, and in my experience, that does seem to work best. So don't be afraid to fill in little spaces or continue adding things. This really isn't a project where you can overdo it. Not everything in your mandala design has to be recognizable either. So if you have cool little doodles or designs or scribbles that you like to make, this is a great place to add those in. They add lots of great detail and can really make something feel like your own. Once you have a pencil-drawn design that you're pretty happy with, it's time to start coming back in and adding some color. You can use any kind of materials that you have available. So here you'll see me using some pens and some watercolor paints because that's what I had in my studio, but feel free to use markers, crayons, colored pencils, or any other materials that you can find around your house. It's true that mandalas are traditionally pretty colorful, but you can use any kind of color palette that you want. So think about what colors you like, what look good together, and maybe also think about if you're making this as a gift for somebody, what kind of colors that person likes. I know for me, as I was making this one, I was thinking a lot about springtime and just how much I love the season. So you'll see me using lots of bright, light-colored, springy colors as I'm completing this mandala. You may notice that I didn't do a perfect job of coloring inside the lines here, and I did that on purpose. Just in the same way that I didn't use a stencil earlier, I've decided to let my coloring be a little bit soft and imperfect so that I can continue to give this work of art that nice, warm, handmade feeling that we talked about earlier. Once you're finished with the inside of your mandala, you might decide that some color or pattern on the outside would help it stand out more. With this one, I decided to add this nice raspberry pink color, which complements the flowers and continues that spring color theme that I've been working with. My friends Deb and Glenn have been making a new mandala each day that they've been staying home now. Sometimes they're hand-drawn, some of them are done on the computer, but some of my favorites are the ones that they've made using found objects, just ordinary things that they've found around the apartment. That's been the inspiration for my next mandala, which I'll show you here. Since it's made with live flowers and fresh leaves, this mandala won't last more than a few hours. Just like the fleeting season of spring, it's meant to be enjoyed in the moment and then let go. Think about putting a mandala someplace where someone else will find it, maybe even a complete stranger. Who knows whose day might be brightened by seeing your artwork? If this video inspires you, we'd love to know. Drop us a line at the Port Angeles Fine Arts Center. Thanks.